Hey, come see us on tour. I'll be in Davenport, Iowa, Las Vegas, Nevada, Chicago, Illinois, and Grand Rapids, Michigan. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. Well, here, I'll give you an example why I think it's going to happen. Well, so the petrodollar has gone away. So Saudi Arabia's petrodollar exit, which is one of the things that props up the value of our dollar, right? So we have an exchange for, what people don't understand what that is, that Saudi Arabia agreed to only sell oil in American dollars. And in exchange for that, they could use our military wherever they wanted, which is why we helped commit a genocide in Yemen, for instance. So now they're starting to sell it in Chinese yuan and there's in other denominations because this is over. That's according to, that's from the NASDAQ. I got that. So also, new U.S. sanctions force an end of dollar and euro trading on Russia's main exchange. So that also just happened. And new U.S. sanctions against Russia have caused an immediate suspension of trading in dollars and euros on the country's leading financial marketplace, the Moscow Exchange. The exchange, also known as MOEX, and the Russian central bank rushed out statements Wednesday, a public holiday in Russia, within an hour of Washington announcing a new round of sanctions aimed at cutting the flow of money and goods to sustain Moscow's war in Ukraine. So the move means banks, companies, and investors will no longer be able to trade either currency via a central exchange, which offers advantages such as a better liquidity and oversight. Instead, they will have to trade over the counter, where deals are conducted directly between two parties. The central bank said it would use data from those trades to set official exchange rates. So what has happened is that the United States now, because of the petrodollar and because that the United States dollar is the reserve currency around the world, which is how other countries trade and settle debts, now we're weaponizing the U.S. dollar to do sanctions wherever we want. And we're doing it against Russia. And now Russia's like, well, fuck you and your American dollar. And they've created BRICS. And now they're going to create another currency now to compete with the U.S. dollar. So that's the petrodollar, BRICS, and now this. Those are three big things. And we created all this by ourselves, by the way. The neocons and the Biden administration. The stuff they said Trump was going to cause is they're being caused by the adults in the room, the adult psychopaths, which are trying to start two world wars at once. So now I think that's why I tell people, that's why I'm putting money in gold and places like gold and Bitcoin, because I don't have any faith in the stock market or our own economy or our own dollar. And here's one more thing I'll show you. Russia builds alternative to SWIFT as a part of a digital sovereignty push. So now there's going to be an alternative to the other worlds trading with each other besides the SWIFT, which uses the U.S. dollar, right? Russia announced in early April that nearly all domestic financial transactions are now being conducted through the financial transaction system, which was created as an alternative to SWIFT. The development of a new financial system is part of a broader desire for greater independence from Western-dominated institutions, including the development of an alternative internet infrastructure. Get the F. Moscow has established tech workers as a protected class from mobilization in a move to end Western technological dependence and stem the outflow of IT talent exacerbated by the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. So those would be the big reasons why I don't have any faith in the U.S. dollar and this kind of fake economy, which is what Wall Street really is. And let me just throw it to Paul first. Get your comment on what I just said, and then we'll throw it to Will.
You know, I'm still just mesmerized by the explanation I got on why modern monetary theory is incredible and we should all embrace it. So I'm still back there a few minutes where where my head is still swirling over how we just passed that by. But sure, we could talk about Moscow making moves. Obviously, they want to survive. They want to thrive. They want their people to do whatever they do. They want to do whatever they do in government. The billionaire class, the ones who own businesses, they want to be able to sell stuff tomorrow. So, of course, they're just doing what humans do. Washington is just an inept place of decision-making. Every choice they make when it comes to, across the board, macro economic decisions, foreign policy decisions, how they treat the people. You know, here's an analogy I think that sums up Washington best. And maybe it's the confusion people still have, even listening to how the government created the internet and I would say that DARPA probably created the internet. Government may have put a few bucks in the pockets of people who were researchers, but they didn't go to government school on how to create the internet or create satellites or touchscreen devices. So here's the analogy. Let's say the company you work for, Jimmy, I know you're self-employed, but let's say the company you work for and all the people are out on a ship that's sinking. Your family is on another ship that's catching fire. You can race on your boat from the shore and save one. Which one are you going to save?
Well, not my family, that's for sure.
So here's the point. The government is saving the company. The Fed is going to save the business. They're still holding $2.3 trillion in mortgage-backed securities. How much of that money went to save the people from getting kicked out of their home?
Zero.
It was the policy that the government made in the first place when they decided, yeah, well, let's help some people without perfect credit get a home in this country. So during the Clinton presidency, he created fractional lending. And Will said it perfectly. Yes, the banks print money out of thin air too. Oh my God, isn't this the greatest country on earth? I can go to the bank, they'll print me some money. The government prints money. Yeah, if we could just get rid of their need to tax us, Jimmy, it really would be the most incredible country. Well, look at the peace. We're all getting along. We're just all so agreeable here. Having all this extra money is doing incredible things for this country. Let's create a theory, then we'll push that down the people's throats, and it'll be the justification of printing money out of thin air until we're all dead. Let's do that. Yeah, that's my opinion. Moscow, BRICS, they're just doing what we did when we wanted to take reserve currency status away from the British. And they took it away from the French. And they gave it up to the Dutch. And the Portuguese had it, and the Spanish had it, and the Romans invented it. This is just another historical nightmare carried out by committees in Washington in the federal system that have no idea what real life is like. None. So here's the last point. If all of the farmers in the world decided to grow corn, we produced 5 trillion ears of corn around the globe. Every single ear of corn would have the same nutritional value as all of the others. So why is it if the government creates $5 trillion out of thin air, it dilutes the potency of the dollars already in the system? Because it's bullshit.
So your analogy is if you create another ear of corn, that other ear of corn is just got the same nutritional value. But if you create more dollars, that other dollar is worth less.
Right, because where's the source? See, one of the things that I use to try and understand complicated things, like any economics professor would cause my head to swirl over their vast knowledge of theory and economic policy. When we take the policy and throw it down on Main Street, then we're going to find out how it actually plays in the world. And we can move past all the conjecture and theorizing, because I'm not a science project. My family's finances and the future of my kids and his kids and their kids, their finances, their future is not a science project that should be subject to the loserdom and wizardry of Washington. We don't need to find out what their theories are going to produce down the road when we have enough examples of all the failed reserve currency countries that came and fell before us. This is so ridiculous to think that just some TED Talk person who wants to change the world and thinks that we can print all the money we want. You can. You can get the dollar down to 1/10 of a penny, and a Starbucks will be $30. So who's going to work then when you can't even get paid enough to buy goods and services? And just for everyone's understanding, when the comment was made earlier about inflation has always been a wild beast here and there, yes, it was caused by wage pressure. It was caused at the tail end of a boom period where there was help wanted signs on every storefront all down the country, where companies were like, we love the growth. We just need more workers. We'll get more growth. But you run out of what? What's the resource you run out of eventually in an overheating economy?
Workers?
Workers, right? So when you run out of workers, Jimmy Dore Industries is going to say, well, guys, why don't you poach some people from the other company? Tell them we'll give them like a 20% bump. Well, of course, then they come over, or the other company you're trying to take them from says, okay, we'll meet Jimmy's offer. We'll give you a 20% raise. Great. Now Bob and Sue have more money to spend in the economy than they're used to, so they're buying bass boats and all kinds, taking trips and all kinds of other stuff they didn't get to do when reality was more prevalent. So then the Fed has to raise rates. To do what? Get those people fired. To put the country in a recession, to cool, because of its mantle, its obligation is to continue to have symmetry in the financial world and fight inflation. That's their main job, as written up a long time. So when they raise rates, what does that do? It slows the buying process, the amount of buying action, causes loans to go up, the monthly payment to go up. So you say, I don't need that now. So it suppresses economic activity, which then comes back to the companies and they lay people off. And then you have a lot less buyers in the economy, but that's how you cool inflation. When I'm talking about inflation these days, we're talking about this unleashing of I don't know, tens, hundreds of trillions of dollars, if you counted everything that banks create out of thin air when they give you a loan. It's 10 to 1. The banks can lend 10 times the amount of money they're sitting on. Can you imagine if drug dealers could produce 10 times the amount of cocaine they actually have? Oh, they do. It's called cutting the coke. So when you cut the dollar, you make it less pure, less potent. And that's what causes the eventual fragility and collapse of the system itself.
So I'm certainly a person who sees all the signs of 2008 happening again. I feel like
because you're paying attention to the real stuff.
I feel like that we're something really bad is going to happen, and that we can't keep going this way, which is why I'm putting my money in other places besides the stock. I took all my money out of the stock market. So those things that I showed you about Russia and creating an alternative to SWIFT and the petrodollar going away, what do you think, Will? What do you think the effect of all that is going to have on the U.S. dollar?
To put downward pressure on the dollar, especially in international finance, right? The value of the dollar relative to other currencies will almost certainly go down. We're not doing ourselves any favors. I mean, it's very similar to if we go to war and the rest of the world doesn't want us to. What we're doing is we're pushing other countries away from the U.S. dollar and dollar-denominated assets. That to me is really, really foolish.
And what's the ultimate effect on the average American from that?
Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that potentially could happen. I don't tend to make dire predictions because there's a lot of nuance. I mean, the 2008 financial crisis would have been as bad as the Great Depression. I'm 100% certain. But the reason it wasn't was because the federal government stepped in and solidified balance sheets of banks, created $750 billion in stimulus packages. So lots of different things can happen. What we're doing, though, is, basically by telling a country like Russia the amount of money that you had in your reserve account at the Federal Reserve, we're just not going to let you access it. By the way, we did that to Iran, too.
Yeah.
We said, hey, all of these, I mean, I can't imagine. My faith in the banking sector would go down substantially if I went and tried to withdraw some money from my checking in my bank account, and my bank said, hey, sorry, I know you have the ones and zeros there, but we're just not going to let you access it. So, I mean, what we're doing is we're pushing other countries towards China and away from the U.S. dollar. I mean, there's almost no doubt in my mind on that. What the ultimate ramifications are, it depends, right? The Federal Reserve can drain a huge amount of dollars off of the foreign exchange markets if it wants to, right? In order to prop up the demand for the dollar internationally. There are lots of different things that can happen. And I mean, we do see other countries that are not the international reserve currency, that aren't the petrodollar, that are still operating okay.
As a fiat currency.
That are fiat currencies. I mean, the overwhelming majority of countries are on a fiat currency, right? And a flexible exchange rate, which means, and one can say modern monetary theory is just a theory, but so is Newtonian physics, so is the theory of gravitation. I mean, simply because something is considered a theory doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just a body of ideas that tries to describe how things operate. And any country that is operating according to a fiat currency, where they haven't fixed their currency to any specific commodity, and is operating on a flexible exchange rate, literally operates according to modern monetary theory principles, the descriptive components.
Right.
The prescriptive stuff, anybody can quibble with. And I quibble with some of the things that modern monetary theorists argue.
So, yeah, I understand what you're saying. You're saying that most of modern monetary theory, what Stephanie Kelton was saying, she's just describing what's actually happening.
Yep.
Is what you're saying. All right. This might sound funny, but I could actually talk about this shit all day. But we can't. We have to say goodbye. And so, Will, I really appreciate you taking time out and coming on, because Stephanie won't anymore. I don't know why she doesn't like me. But I appreciate you coming on and explaining everything. Do you have a Substack or anything you want me to direct people to?
Absolutely not. I don't do social media. I don't do any, if you need to email me, you can. If you need to find me, I'll be on a river in Montana.
Hey, come see us on tour. I'll be in Davenport, Iowa, Las Vegas, Nevada, Chicago, Illinois, and Grand Rapids, Michigan. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.